It's funny because I have a lot of friends that do a lot of different creative things that are really good at stuff. And Shel, I think you can relate to this given that you may have brought the most amount of people not on camera into my studio in a long time. There's definitely been people that have come here before. That's why I have the couches and the chairs. But you obviously have people in your corner that are helping you out, which respect. I'm a little envious of that, to be completely honest with you. I have found that throughout the years, all of my talented people in my circle, when I've tried to ask them to help me with things, they end up letting me down a bit, and then I don't feel the same way about them. So I try to keep people at a distance. And now that's a huge personal problem, and I'm not trying to put this on you.
Oh, no,
we
you're
just
good.
met like 10 minutes ago. And
No,
but you know, we make it work. I make it work.
I do. I have like a really good team behind me. And I definitely understand what you kind of mean by like when you trust people, especially with music or art. Cause I mean, like for me, like every album, honestly, every song, it's almost like it's a kid of mine. And
Oh yeah.
that's what it feels like. So it's a lot to like trust your kid in somebody else's hands. And you know, like with anything, like nothing's ever perfect. Right. And something that I myself I learned a long time ago to try to like manage my expectations for people. And I still fall short of that now. Like there's times where I expect like someone, especially with the music stuff, and it gets difficult, where it's like I'll expect someone to come in and like save me or be like, oh, they're gonna pull me through, or they're gonna help me make it or pop or whatever. And that's just not the case. You know, it's not. It's like you just got to keep working and keep working. And when things go wrong, you can either sit there and complain about it, or you can just be like, all right, that's the real world. That's how things work.
Totally.
When things happen, they happen.
Yeah.
And just keep plugging away and keep working.
That's the permanent contradiction of being an artist, right? Where like I think in order to be any sort of a genuine creative person, you need to live outside of reality. But if you're trying to do this shit like for real, you need to find the right way to ground yourself so you know that like, hey, like I can be like, how do you separate the creative disillusionment, like how do you disengage from the real world and then be like, okay, now it's time to promote things or show up to something on time or get this and that, you know, get the band together, all this fucking bullshit that requires the real world. Well, it's hard.
It is. I mean, for me, I've had 21, sorry, I'm undercutting myself there. I've had making myself a little too young there. I've had about like 25 years of experience with that because like I played basketball before I got into music, and it was something I was like wholeheartedly dedicated to and put everything into. And to be good at anything, to strive to be great at anything, it takes like a level of like delusion in a sense. It takes a level of being like it does take a level of like ego and sense of being like, no, I am good enough to do this. Like, no, why can't I be the one to do that? But for me, like as I said, with basketball, I could bring a lot of my like craziest dreams to life. You know what I mean? Like a lot of people grow up wanting to dunk and be able to do all these crazy things in the air and be able to do, and it's like I could do it.
Well, yeah, well, you're fucking like 16 feet tall.
True. This is true. And it's like, and so being able to kind of like live in that fantasy world that basketball created, but at the same time, like I'm also a very big family guy as well. So, and my family is like, they're like Southern based, so they're more like down like salt of the earth type people.
Sure. Family.
Yeah.
Like,
they'll humble you very quickly.
Family means something, not like here in Pennsylvania.
Well, I mean, yeah. No. But no, it's like, you know, I have a family that'll like humble me very quickly if I do start getting big. They've always been like that. And it's like, yeah. So I've always had this ability to be able to like manage my ego and know when to use it and when to be able to just, you know, shut up and just let other people talk in a sense.
I think that's a huge thing coming from a sports background, where that's going to give you an advantage that I think a lot of people might take for granted. I know that so many artists come from a background of like solitary confinement in some way, you know what I mean? Everybody romanticizes like, oh, it's just me and my pen and my pad in my bedroom alone and stuff like that. But, you know, I don't know like where your origins starting to write music came from. We'll get there. Don't worry about it. We'll get to the Spider-Man origin story in a second. But in terms of, you know, having that background with sports, like you're a lot more used to asking other people for help, relying
Mhm.
on a team, and all of these things that sometimes seem counterintuitive to a lot of the more artist types,
Yeah.
musician types.
I mean, that's the thing. Like, I played on a team with some like really good players, and there was times where I had to sit there and be like, okay, I'm not the best player on the team. I'm not the best scorer. I'm not the best shooter. I'm not this, but I wouldn't diminish myself in that sense. It's like, as I said, like balancing reality with my ego. It's like the reality is, all right, I might not be the best scorer on the team, but I might be the most athletic and best defender and one of the best shooters, and I have like one of the best all around games. So it's kind of like being able to. It's a very difficult balance because I mean,
Yeah.
it's especially the further I get into music, it's like it's harder for me to balance. Where it's like sometimes I want to just let my ego run wild, and there's other times where it's like, no, I got to like slow down and be like, hey, this is the reality of the situation. It is what it is. Go on from there. But then there's other times where having that mindset doesn't get anything done.
Yeah.
And as I've gotten more into music, I've kind of learned when to use like my what I call like wolf or like my wolf. I found when figured out when to like use that and when not to use it.
Yeah.
Like when to actually like bring out that side of me. Cause like as you said, like with basketball, like it was a thing where like the reason I'm with music, I don't really get too caught up in it's like when things aren't going good is because with basketball there was a lot of days where I wasn't making all the shots in the gym. There's a lot of days where things weren't falling or weren't going right. And it's not going to stop me from getting in there the next day. And it's not going to stop me from getting in there the next day. And the next day is going to be better. The next day after that's going to be better. And it's like for me with the music, it's just for me, every time I listen to what I've made, as well as like the people who I've like helped produce and like and actually like have in the studio and worked with, every time I hear like the progression of how our music is getting better and better and better, and it's like I'm working with better artists and just being around better artists is in general, like I can kind of be like, okay, it allows me to like kind of relax my ego and be like, hey, you hear that this is working. Like you hear the progression in your music,
Yeah.
you hear the artists that you're with, you hear the musicians and instrument. I can never say this word correctly.
Instrumentation.
Yeah.
I mean, I said it
Yeah.
half correct, so don't even worry about it.
Was more correct than mine. So
This ain't Jeopardy or something. You can mispronounce words all you want.
but like the different sounds I'm starting to use, it's like it to me, it like all kind of like tells a story. And for me, that's what my music is really just captures is like my story throughout music.
Yeah.
Really. And a lot of artists can't do that. A lot of artists are afraid to like deal with that part of reality. But to me, dealing with that reality and battling that with my ego, that helps me write. That helps me create music for other people because I mean, it's kind of like the old fear that a lot of comedians have, right? That once their life is perfect or once it's like calm, are they going to be as funny because they don't have as much stuff to talk about? And sometimes I feel that with like, as I said, with my ego and the reality side of me is battling. It's like, there's times where I'm like, well, if that battle's not happening, will the music sound as good? If I do find like balance, will I be able to actually create good as music? And as I've gotten on and as I've found more balance in it, the answer to that's been yes.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
So it's like, just kind of have to sometimes tell my ego to shut up, get in the like passenger seat, and let's just let the train or let the car go wherever it's going.
Yeah, definitely. There's the saying that like you can't like if you operate at your best all the time, then it's not your best anymore. It's just
Mhm.
being normal. So it creates like a feedback loop of always like trying to do better than like is even humanly possible. And it's like you need to have the ability to recognize that like when you're operating at your best and like be okay if it's not what your expectations of your best were because
Yeah.
like you're only human. And that's a tough thing
That's
to
a
deal
very
with. I know
difficult
for
thing
some
for
people.
people to accept. I mean, I ain't gonna lie. Like, listen, as you said, I am freakishly tall. I'm freakishly athletic. I'm one of the few people in the world that like, whenever I want something to change, it's like I can actually make it change physically, right? So a lot of times,
Can you get Taco Bell to bring back the volcano menu?
I'll see what I can do.
Thank you.
I'll see
All
what
right.
I can
Didn't
do.
mean to cut you off anyways.
I don't know if I can like physically intimidate them to do that.
I think you could.
Might need a few more. I mean, if you met my family, like we're all big, like
Yeah.
we're all deep. Like, I'm a basketball player. They're all offensive and defensive linemen.
Yeah.
So they're big and broad. So maybe we can. But kind of I'm sorry, I kind of lost where I was at
Sorry, I
before
fucked you up. I didn't mean
that.
to
Like,
do
you're good. I started thinking about Taco Bell. You're good.
that. But let's reel this back a bit here. You know what I mean? We're kind of talking about your journey where you are now as somebody that's been making music for an undefined amount of time that I'm aware of. Because I'm about to ask you that question. When did your musical journey start?
So there's like 3 starting points with it.
Fair enough.
The first is when I was younger, was a huge fan of Tupac. Still am a huge fan of Tupac. And I always loved that he wrote poems. And I never saw myself being a rapper because like I grew up like in the church. So it wasn't
Okay.
like, yeah, my granddad hated rapping. So I never saw myself as being a rapper, but I was like, I can be a poet though. You know what I mean? I can't sing, but I can be a poet. So I would start writing like little poems and I would just stash them away to the side. And then, I later found out my mom found the stash and she was like, oh my God, you've been a great writer for all these years or whatever. But I didn't like that. I was like, these are my it's my journals, my diary. Don't read that.
Yeah, definitely.
But so, and then probably around like high school, a good friend of mine's like started working with him, like just kind of like almost like bullshitting around with music more than anything else. Actually, am I allowed to cuss?
Yes.
Okay. All right, yeah. So yeah, we were bullshitting around with music and then started like helping him writing like a few little songs, just playing around here and there. And because I was still writing poems, like even while I was playing basketball, I was still writing poems because for me to like basketball, like it allowed me to like deal with like my anger and all that stuff. But there was still always a creative and imaginative side of me that just kind of needed some type of way to be expressed. And poems was always my way to do that. And then when I got to like Pitt, like going into my like senior year, we went on this road trip. It was like a leadership council, whatever, and it was a long bus ride. And I don't know why I had this one random beat from YouTube saved on my phone. And the whole ride there, I just had it on repeat and I'm writing like the stupidest rhyme and like the stupidest rap. But that was the whole point of it. I was just trying to write like it was just something stupid, right?
Yeah.
And like when we got to the retreat or we got to the trip, I was kind of like, you know what? I'm gonna rap this for a few people. You know what I mean? Like, I'm gonna rap this. So I rapped it for like my one teammate, Cam. He was like, yeah, stick to basketball.
Oh no.
It wasn't good. I will not say it was not a good rap, but I believed wholeheartedly in it.
Yeah.
And that's when I kind of started piecing together. Like the words weren't good, but like my flow and everything was good. The words weren't. And then when I went after my senior year, I went over to Bulgaria and like right before I left, I met back up with my friend Garen. I got in the studio, started hanging out with with my cousin Seth and my one friend Jordan, and we went to the studio. And this one night we're sitting there and Garen was like, yo, why don't you write a rap to this? And I was like, man, who knows? I might have a few songs written, I might have something. So we come back maybe like 2 days later and we set like a timer, set like a 15-minute timer, and I was just record songs, and we ended up recording like 8 or 9 songs that night. And I took those songs, once again, believing these are the greatest thing that anyone's ever heard in their life, and that they're gonna like Michael Jackson ain't got nothing on these. That's what I'm thinking in my head. And then play them for my friends, and because they're my friends, they're being nice. They're like, oh yeah, this is cool. This is cool. This is cool. Yeah, this is cool. When do you go overseas to play basketball though? Like when do you head over there to do your real job? Like when do you go do that? Yeah. Let us know when that date is. So I then went over to Bulgaria and I had like those 8 songs, and I can't remember what it was, but I was like doing like this video chat thing with my cousin, and we would like send messages back because it was like a 7-hour time difference. So we would send video messages back and forth. And I was still working on music because I went over there and I had like a PS3. The problem was I only brought one game, and the Wi-Fi went out every day at like 3:30, 4 o'clock, and it wouldn't come back on until like we got back from until we had to leave for our second practice. So I had like a lot of time in the middle of the day, like when I'm up and I'm awake and my mind's dealing with the stuff in the morning as well as thinking about what's coming at night. I kind of started like really thinking more of like, well, why? Like my cousin Seth made a point where he was like, in 6 months you're gonna think this music's trash, like that you made. He's like, right now you think it's the greatest thing, but in 6 months you're gonna think it's trash. And I just couldn't understand why he said that, because I was like, this is the greatest thing ever. Why don't you believe me? And sorry. And then like probably 3 months later, I started trying to 'Cause I was bored and looking up on the internet, like found this thing on lucid dreaming and started looking into that. And I like tried it for the first time where you gotta like basically try to sit completely still,
Mm.
right? And try to let your mind which is very difficult to do because like some part of your body wants to tick or some part wants to move or there's a little itch that comes up. Something wants to move. It doesn't like sitting still like that. Or at least mine's didn't. Shouldn't say the body. Mine's didn't. And so after the first time didn't work. Second time I tried it, didn't work. And then the third time it did work. And I felt like this rush and like this wave. And like throughout the dream, like it was kind of like I like woke up in this dark room where it was like three mirrors. And on one side there was like me in like a basketball uniform, and the other side it's almost like what I kind of look like now. And in the middle was kind of like a blank mirror. And I got close to the mirror, but like it didn't like nothing still appeared. And then I just heard this voice say, like, do you know who you really are? And I was like, the fuck? like, like and then it kind of made me be like, all right, this is the dream part. Like, I'm here for a reason. Like, I got to go through this. So, um, after that though, I like woke up and I was like, yeah, maybe I shouldn't do that anymore. I don't know if I want to open that can of worms. Cause like, once again, to play sports or to play basketball, you have to have like a mindset where it's like, I'm willing to run through somebody to score, or I'm willing to do whatever. Like, you have to break me to be able to score me. You have to have like a crazy type mindset. It's the same thing with like really most pro athletes. Like, you have to have like an insane type mindset. And the more like aware you are and the more oh yeah, I guess the more aware and like woke you are, sometimes it can like lead to you losing that like killer instinct.
Sure.
And I was an athlete who needed it. So I was kind of worried about going back and doing another lucid dream after that.
Okay.
But it was like, but after that, that question kept running in my head, and I thought it related to, after a while, I realized it had nothing to do with basketball. It was talking about music, because the music I was making was me trying to sound like other people, trying to sound like J. Cole or sound like Drake or sound like Kendrick. It was me trying to sound like these artists that I liked and really do and look up to, right, as artists. And that question was more posed like, you don't like the music because it's like, it's not you. Like, that's not the music you listen to. That don't sound anything like AC/DC in rap form. Like,
Sure.
you know what I mean? That doesn't sound like Nine Inch Nails in rap. Like, that doesn't sound like what I would actually create. And then after that, like, I found this one DJ or producer, his name was Adeotic, and he had like there was like maybe like 6, 7 views on his things. But I'm like going through every single one of his beats, and they're crazy. They're fire. And I'm like, but they sounded so different and they matched the music I was hearing, like when I would go to Bulgarian clubs. And I was like, that's a little different. Like, if I can add like my own spin on that, like my own rap spin, like my own style on it, I can do that. So I was like, but I got to answer that question though. Like, who am I? So a couple of days later, went back for another lucid dream.
Oh, okay. All right. He went back in. Got it.
Yeah. Cause like, I had an unanswered question. And so go back in, and this time it was more like imagine like the Jetsons like space bubble,
Yes.
and like all of my friends and family are like partying, and then like I'm in there partying with them, and then like out the middle, like split down the middle, there's like basically like my dream girl, right? Like that's what she looked like. She imagine like Pam Grier, right? Like, yeah, you get
Okay,
that reference. Yeah, you're old enough to get that reference. Yeah. Sorry. But yeah, think like Pam Grier in her prime, right? So that's kind of, and me and her start dancing, and we have like end up having like a crazy night, and it's kind of leads to end up being kind of like a setup for me to end up back in that room with those mirrors and the same question being asked. And it's like the only way you're gonna, and basically what I got from the dreams was like the only way I'm gonna actually be able to make music that I would be proud to go on stage and perform and give it my all and be able to really express and show everybody who I am is if I don't try to sound like the people I admire, but I try to sound like myself, which is a combination of all these like life experiences, which have been soundtracked by the wildest music. Well, not the wildest music. I'm looking at the stuff you have around here. We probably have a very similar music taste.
Sure.
So, like kind of like putting all that stuff together. And then after I left Bulgaria, I went to the G League. And once again, like people don't know this, but players have a lot of downtime. And I went to Maine. There's nothing to do in Maine. Like nothing.
Yeah.
You can't even try to get in trouble in Maine. You just can't. Like there's nothing. So I just was in a hotel room playing around with these beats, learning how to like mix and master them, like really changing up my writing style and really trying to like dive deeper into like my own personal stories that I reflected on or ones that haunted me that I felt like didn't have closure to, like whether they're romantic ones, whether they were with like friends, whether it was with basketball, life, family, like whatever, just diving more into like more personal stuff to kind of really bring out like the best of myself. And once the pandemic hit, like I was in the middle of my second season there and it wasn't going how I wanted it to go by a long shot. And now I basically have like a month where I'm just sitting in a hotel room in Maine. And it's and really starting to become aware of like kind of what do I want to do with the rest of my life? Like what's going to like provide me with like feeling happy, because even at that point, even when I had good games, I still was unhappy and still pissed off all the time. And I was just like, this just feels like a road, a really bad road to go down. And then around the time when it did start happening, some family stuff happened, and I ended up kind of in like a very like suicidal mind state. So then what happened was I had these like pair of um I guess like alt rock beats, like alt rock hip hop beats. And I was like, you know what? I'm gonna write to these, and I'm gonna write as open and as honestly, and I'm gonna try to make myself cry by like how I write these and how I put these down. And each one succeeded in it, and each one tapped into a fear of mine that I and it's something that I plan on like releasing once I get the artist and everything I need for it. But it helped me tap into like a form of writing where it was like, no, like I feel that. And I know if I feel that, considering how jaded I am and how my musical taste is, somebody will feel that. So then I started sending it out to some friends, just sending it out, seeing how they felt about it. And like most of them were like, yo, are you okay?
Sure.
And I'm like, that was my answer. Like, sure, if you want to say that, but what did you think of the song? Because at the moment, like all that I had to hold on to, like in life, and how I felt was like literally was just that song. And everyone was like, yo, this is like, people need to hear this. Like, yo, this is great. Like, I know you're not the only one feeling like this is it. And I started thinking like, okay, this is great. All right. So then I started thinking like, I'm a huge wrestling fan, right? And the one thing that hurts like some wrestlers is like when they don't have a story. Like Cody Rhodes just finished his story, right? And that was like the biggest thing ever, basically. So like I've kind of started figuring out like I need to figure out a way to tell my story. And when I left Maine, like I was with my friend Lizzie, and she was kind of helping me like explore a lot more of like my own like awareness and like my own self-awareness. And I started really kind of like hearing the sound that I kind of envisioned making. It was kind of more like an up tempo rap style, where it was like if you want to actually talk about rage in it, it's like no, it needs to make you feel something like rage. And I feel like a lot of times when rappers talk about like, oh, this next song's a rager, it's like you ain't listening to no music with any real rage in it. You don't like, what do you know about real rage? Like, what do you really know about real rage? Like, you don't know anything about it. You're a coddled little baby. Shut the hell up.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
that's the ego side. That's how I kind of like once again, that's how like I'll take it. And what I started learning was that like when I do make a more up tempo song, that's the energy I need to have. Like that's where I need to take it. But if it's going to be a more low key and introspective one, then yeah, then I will flip that thinking I just had. I'll flip it and be like, well, Shel, who the hell are you to look at somebody else's situation and look down on it or judge them off of it? And then that'll help me kind of get into being able to write from an introspective one where it's like, true, like why should I be able to do that? Like I shouldn't. Like I'm no better than anybody. Like we all have our own experiences. We all come from where we come from. A lot of us don't have a choice. We just have to manage and deal with things as they go along. Like I'm the same way. In some ways though, I've been able to create my own path, but at the end of the day, I still have to deal with whatever life throws at me. You know what I mean? Like I can, like as we were talking about earlier, like I can live in the fantasy world where it's like, oh, my music is, it's good and we're going here, but like that's not the reality of it.
Sure.
It's like the reality of it, it's like it's a grind, it's a process where we got to keep going and keep coming up with what's next and coming up with interest in marketing. Cause like, as I said, I was raised in the church, so I can't really take the controversial route.
Okay.
I got to try to do it off of like people liking my music.
Yeah. I mean, the controversial stuff is kind of cringe anyways. Anytime somebody tries to do that shit, like I can't think of any artist in like the past 2 decades of my life, if even longer than that, that's ever done anything that's like intentionally controversial that was actually cool. Maybe when I was a kid, I could think of some stuff, but I was like fucking 12. So I'm like, yeah, cool. That's great. I could look back on some of that stuff now and I'm like, bro, it's corny. Like, I think you
No.
just need to like, the thing that like is really, really hard about being an artist is like, you know, everybody's always talking about being real.
Mhm.
And great, that's a pretty good idea. That's a good starting point. But what most people fuck up is that in the quest of being real, everybody, whether it's intentionally or unintentionally, ends up manicuring this image of themselves that is not real, even if it came from like a real feeling. It's like, this isn't real. This is all like just super meticulously thought out. And like, you know, you have like, you end up with, you know, a look that's not you, even though it's supposed to be you. It's like, that's not you. Or you end up with songs that are supposed to be angry, but they're not angry because it's like, oh, everything has to be perfect. I have to be hitting every single thing in key and on time and stuff like that.
And
And it's like, sure, for some kind of music,
But if it's
you're
supposed
not,
to be an
yeah,
angry rager,
yeah, this is,
you don't care about timing.
you're not fucking recording Bohemian Rhapsody. You know what I mean? Like, shut the fuck up. Are you mad or not? And like the thing that like that always fucks me up in terms of like the live environment versus the recording environment. And I think that there's so many good people in my circle that I've known throughout the years that are still performing and that maybe that have stopped performing that are like fantastic live performers. And that's great. And if you see them, you get what's going on in that moment. They're real on stage. They don't have fucking Pro Tools to fix them on fucking stage. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Unless they're singing the backtracks. But most of the time, those artists, when they do get into a studio and start doing all this stuff, I'm like, no, don't do it like that. Just be real. But it's so hard with like all the access to technology now to make things, to manicure everything. It's so easy.
Yeah.
And that combined with all of the social media stuff and needing to constantly feel like I'm the best and I'm the most visible and I'm doing all of this stuff to be seen and heard. And it's way too fucking much.
Oh no, I'm with you on that. I mean, Caleb can attest to it. Like the way my stage performance is literally nothing that as crazy as I am in the like studio. Like the energy I have on like the stage is literally like almost a fifth of what it is like in the studio, because the way I view it is like when I'm first recording it, I need to record this the same way I'm going to perform it. Like if I can't record it, like if I can't rap the verse all the way through, I mean, I know some people do it like doing it, and I get why they do it. Like they do punch-ins, right? I've never been someone to like punching in, because it's like I'm envisioning myself with, there's a live band behind me and I got to be able to rap this without a backtrack being heard. So I can't punch in here. Like I need to be able to rap this all the way through and really build the momentum up throughout it, because it's like when you punch in, for me at least, when you punch in, it's hard to take the like ride with the ebbs and flows of the verse.
Yeah, you really, really fuck with the dynamics of everything. You know, punching in is really something that should be used more as a production technique if the part calls for it.
Mhm.
Like, say you might write something where it's like, I don't know, be like, this is like very, very juvenile what I'm about to say right now, but it's what came to my mind first. So if you do like a punch-in where it's like, I fucked a bitch once and then I fucked a bitch twice, you know, like, okay, like production wise, that would sound fun, but it's not necessary. And you could very easily be like, I fucked a bitch once, I fucked a bitch twice if you wanted to. So, but I don't want to get into like a whole production wormhole. I get what the fuck you're saying in terms of wanting your studio stuff, and also just as a personal preference, it to be like a good receipt of your ability as a performer. You want that on a studio recording, and you want that recording to feel like, oh, like this is me behind a band and not just like me in a bedroom closet.
Yeah. And I mean, because that's kind of how I've kind of come to understand the music a little bit. It's like, yes, it is important that it be good, but at the end of the day, it's more like a market, and it's like an advertisement for my stage show. It's like I want somebody to hear that and be like, yo, I need to go see whoever the fuck that was live.
Sure.
Like I need to go watch them play live. And that's how like I try to record it, and that's how I try to have the energy like that. I mean, when in the studio. And for me, part of doing that, as you said, a lot of people and I'm not trying to knock anybody who does it either. Like if they're recording in their room by themselves and they might have a producer, they might have a homie. Like I like having sparring sessions where it's like I'm literally bringing in my guy Sir Lord, bringing in Lucci Ludwig, bringing in Shamar, bringing in Drake Gordon, bringing in even Louis the Kid, and then bringing in some of like my producers like T Long, bringing in some of like the guitarists like Zach and Jordan from Fade and Jaded, bringing in Tyler, and we need to start bringing Penguin in more from like Loopzilla, like, and then even bringing like my saxophone guy, like having them all come in, and it's like really creating this like environment where it's like it's like a good competitive energy where it's like, no, I'll like bet we want to let's see who can write the best verse the fastest. Let's see who can come up with the best hook, and not like as you said, not as like the hibbity or like the generic shit. Like I'm gonna fuck your bitch, or I'm gonna do this, or I'm gonna do that. Like not that shit, but someone who can actually come up with some witty stuff that makes me as a rapper be like, you know what, I need to start my verse over.
Sure.
like I'm not gonna be able to what I just wrote and competing with that. Like that's the feeling that I want. Like I get off. Not I get off. That sounded so wrong.
I mean, you could.
Yeah.
The song would be pretty good if you did.
True. Yeah, I think so. For me, what like gets me like riled up and gets me like in that competitive spirit is that energy in the room. And whenever I'm like recording with those guys, like I like if I want them to bring the energy to the studio, I gotta like show them the energy I want. So a lot of times it forces me to have to like get out of my comfort zone, like basically get out of my feelings and be like, no, just do this. Like record it how you the crazy way you heard it in your head when you was writing it, record it even crazier than that.
Sure.
And then if we need to tame it down, we'll tame it down. But start off that crazy and then figure out where we're going from there.
Yeah, I think that it's what you said before about like the music just kind of being like an advertisement to like come see me at a show or something like that. Like I really think that is the best way to approach being like an underground artist, because it really is about the shows.
Yeah.
Some of us are gonna luck out and blow up online from something, whether it be like some sort of a TikTok thing or something like that. But all that stuff I feel tends to be very temporary.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like if you're trying to do some sort of a long game, you need to focus on the live shows, getting people in person and just being in rooms in front of people so they can find your music. Like that's most important, I think, across any genre.
I mean, when you look at like a lot of, I do it. Like I mean, when I was playing basketball, I like was a student of the game. So I studied the great players and players that were similarly built to me, players that had a similar game to mine, or just ones where I'm like, well, I like that move. Let me go try to work on that. It's the same thing with basketball. It's like you have to like, I'm sorry, not basketball. It's the same thing with music.
Yeah.
You have to like study the game. Like to me, there's a lot of greats that came before us. And when you look at their stories, the ones that actually had real staying power, the ones that, and I'm not trying to sound arrogant, but like when I'm doing something, I want to try to be the absolute best at it. So the ones that I view myself as competing with or trying to like reach that tier where I can compete with them, they all have had this process, making their bones. They've all had that process where it's like, all right, you got to go figure out, all right, this guitar player might not work. This bass player might not work. This song might not work. You have to like actually go out and experience it. And actually go out and experience like the grind.
Just do shit. Just do it.
And be just proactive about it.
Yeah. And I think that the other thing too is like you need to release music, even if like just do stuff and put it out there. Otherwise, nobody's gonna even know you're not even doing anything. Coming from somebody that has like sat on a batch of songs way too fucking long, it's like I would have rather fucking release this stuff, even if it's half good, so people might still hit me up for fucking shows instead of like the world fucking forgetting about me. And now it's like, damn, what did I do? I really shot myself in the foot trying to make things too manicured, make them too perfect before putting it out there in the world. You know what I mean? Just fucking just put
do
it
it
out there. It doesn't fucking matter. I mean, it does, but like, at our level, it doesn't.
It doesn't. It's like, because whatever hits.
Yeah.
It's like I'll give you an example. Like off of my last project, On the Edge, like I think my least favorite song on there is The Fall. And it's not even because I think it's a bad song. It's just because of the subject matter. It's a very dark song for me because of what I was thinking about when I originally wrote the song.
Sure.
So I just don't like listening to it back. But there's so many other people that have listened to it and they're like, or listen to the album and they're like, yo, that's actually my favorite song on the project. And I'm like, oh, fucking course it is.
Yeah.
And it's like you can never guess what's going to hit. You can never guess what's going to work. As you said, it's like, I mean, I think I'm kind of an example of it. It's like you just got to just keep going. You just got to keep doing it, like keep showing up. Like not every day is going. Like I was just going back to the basketball stuff. Not everything's going to be perfect, but a coach of mine used to always say you got to love the mundane stuff. You have to love like the stuff that everyone else is uncomfortable doing. The going to the shows when there's only 8 people up there, and then instead of performing for those 8 people, you just I'm just going to get up here and say my little bit and be off the stage. It's like no, I see 8 people out there. I see 8 new people that could like my music. So it's like I'm gonna give them the show that I would give to if there were 100,000 people here.
Yeah.
And I think that's the like from basketball, it's the same because there's a lot of times I spent way more time in a dark gym with like completely empty than I did under the bright lights, and like the time in minutes is not even close. Like, so I'm well aware that you have to do a lot of work in the dark, and you have to do a lot of work when no one's looking and no one's listening to get to that point where you get under those bright lights. Like for me, right? When I performed at Millville, I think I had like probably like 12 monthly listeners or some shit like that. But I would be getting more people showing up to my shows than I would have monthly listeners. So it's like by those metrics, which one's more important? Like the people showing up to shows, going out and telling other people you need to hear it, inviting more people to shows, or the streams.
No,
It's like,
the shows, the stream shit is it fucking cracks me up. I can't tell you. I'm not gonna put anybody on fucking blast here. These people know who they are, and they deserve to. You should be ashamed of yourselves. Some of these fucking people that have like hit me up to come on the podcast, and it's like I've never heard of this band before. Great, and I look them up, and it's like 5,000 monthly listeners. I'm like, eat my ass. You're fucking do the fucking podcast. Nice people. I get it. Everybody's just trying to put themselves out there and things like that. But it's like, this episode got 70 downloads. You know what I mean? Like, where the fuck's the listeners at? Yeah. But the thing is, like, a lot of that stuff, like, isn't always their fault. Cause like, especially with like rock bands, like if you're trying to get onto like festivals, like not like Millvale where it's like, hey, like it's more of like grassroots and things like that. But like, there's a lot of things where it's like, when you're submitting to play a lot of things, they ask you, like, what's your social media? How many monthly listeners do you have? What are your followers? Because the people that are curating these fucking things aren't actually curating them. They'll just pick it by numbers. Yeah. And it's like, oh, why does like the grand, like, why does it like the normal scale? I like to call them the muggles, I guess, not people that are in like the music scene, but the people, just the normal people don't understand the wizardry that's going on, I suppose, behind the scenes. When they're getting like talent fed to them through like these concert promoters that are putting local bands on their show just because of the fake Spotify numbers, it's like, no wonder so many people think the local music scene is garbage. Mm-hmm. Because the people that you're putting on there are people that are not actually doing the work. The people that are just like giving money to somebody to, somebody in fucking, I don't know, somewhere in Russia that has like 10,000 phones in a fucking office that are botting your song. And it just sucks.
I mean, that's so, and that's something I kind of realized, like my first, after I left Maine, I went to DC, and when I was in DC, that's when I first, I was working in Amazon, and I would just basically walk around the warehouse. Like after I would, do what I was supposed to be doing. Like then after that, I would just walk around the warehouse, and I had like the earbud in, and I had like these 10 beats that I was just writing to, and I was coming up, and it was like, whoa, this is different than what I normally would rap like. And I was like, well, and it later turned out to be my album On the Edge. But then I also started working on this project Lucy, which is coming out in July. And it's like I started like I was doing the same thing where I was like sitting on songs, and I was like, and then I started working with artists once I like moved back to Pittsburgh, and was still doing the same thing, sitting on songs. And it's like the songs are getting better, and it's like I'm starting to be a very severe like backlog that's like overflowing. And I kind of like started realizing like, all right, I gotta like just put something out. Like I got to put something out, and it has to be something that's like an introduction to me. So like for the next like 3 or 4 months, I started working on like my project, The Outsider, and like most of the beats were like made and produced by me. I got it like mixed at the Rap Cave by my guy Roscoe, and it was starting. I was like, wait a minute, this doesn't sound like anybody else on the radio. this sounds like me. And I was like, I need to keep following that. Like just the way I was delivering, the way I was like, I was rapping, like all of it was different. Like the beats I was using, this like the album I thought it was different. And I started realizing like, well, if I released it how it sounds now, it wouldn't sound great. It would just sound like people would just be like, oh, that sounds cool, but And then I started realizing like I need to go out and find like I don't want to say my supporting cast, but like if we're casting a movie, I need to find my co-stars. And so I started looking at the album like it's a movie. And then I started linking up with a few artists around town. And then I started meeting a few promoters and I started realizing, well, I'm having a hard time getting booked even after I started putting out music. I was like, well, I have these connections with these promoters. Why don't I just put on the show myself? And then when I started putting on shows, I started like tapping in with even better artists. And then because I'm booking them on the show. And
Yeah.
then when they're there, they get to hear my stuff. They're like, yo, like we should work together. And then we eventually get in the studio and we make some stuff. Or just that's just a connection that I have that I wouldn't have had before. And by continuing to put on the shows, it kind of gave me uh, I don't want to say control, but it gives me like a sense of like leverage, I would say, where it's like, all right, I don't like I can sit around and wait for somebody to book me, or I can just book my show, pick some of my favorite artists that I think are dope and aren't heard or not heard enough, and then put them on the show and like
Yeah.
really represent myself. As you said, like having the show be an extension of myself. Like I feel like I'm a counterculture type person. Like that's me. I like a lot of things. Like I don't know how to explain it. Like I mean, actually, yeah, the monsters, right? Like all the monsters you have on the wall, a lot of the figures that you have on the wall. Most of the stuff I actually there I do know. Shout out to the Creep Show one too. I love that you have the Creep Show.
Hell yeah.
That's very fire. It's more of I'm a Tales of the Crypt guy myself,
Uh-huh.
but I love the Creeper up there.
Yeah.
And so I enjoy so many aspects of pop culture that it's like I enjoy a lot of different styles of music, and there's a lot of artists in this city that are making some incredible music, but it's like they can't find a stage because they don't have the streams or they don't have this like Spotify numbers.
Yeah.
And what by me putting on the shows, it enabled me to like kind of give them a spotlight, but also for me to be able to start working with some of these artists too. And like, but yeah, like this, like I have an upcoming one on like June 28th with like Hollow North, and they're like their lead singer Bobby, like those songs I was talking about, I wrote with Maine when I was kind of in like a suicidal mind state. He's literally going to help me finish one of those songs. So that's kind of how like my journey has been. Like I've had these like batch of songs that I've been sitting on for a long time, and I've been dropping singles and making new songs and everything like that. But they've kind of been my focus because they're like the story of me. Like they're my story that I can tell.
Yeah.
And by me dropping these singles and me going through this process, it's helped me like find like the people I do need to work with and the people I don't want to work with, and like the type of people I don't want to work with. It's helped me kind of really curate this art gallery of mine in a sense. And now it's like I do feel like it's at a point where we could take it on the road and go to different places and and that's the thing. Even if we're just playing in front of any crowd, I feel like we'll leave there with some fans. Like I feel like that we're at that level in terms of like the music that like if you hear it, it's going to get you.
Yeah.
Like that's just the thing, in my opinion. And all that kind of leads like perfectly into Lucy, like because it's kind of like the album itself is really it's my like more like On the Edge was me rapping. This is me like introducing everybody to my musical taste, how I like house music, how I love rock and roll music, how I love blues, how I love jazz. How I mean, I even love like there's this one record I bought which was like the Hawaiian like state band or whatever. They was just playing like the instrumentals. It's fire. I want to sample it someday. I highly recommend looking it up. like like I love like just so many different forms of music. And while I mean rap is always like going to be my number one, it's like I feel like it puts me in a box that allows me to be compared to everyone else. It doesn't allow me to set myself apart from everybody if my music sounds like everyone else.
Yeah.
But like we have this song called Flying, which is once again one of those original Bulgarian beats. My friend Zach, like he from Faded and Jaded, he added like this industrial style like guitar riff over it that sounds like straight off of like Nine Inch Nails song that should be playing in like a German bathhouse or something. Like
Sure.
it's nuts, but it like fits the album and it honestly fits my music taste perfectly. So I sorry, I don't even know how we got into that topic, but we're there.
Well, I think one thing that it seems that you are open to is not putting yourself inside a very specific box, which is cool. And I think that's something that a lot of people, especially in like the rap hip hop world, have made the mistake of doing over the past couple decades. Where it's like when I think about like the origins of hip hop, it was like a melting pot of all these different
Hmm.
cultures, people sampling records from all different kinds of music and things like that. And if you listen to, the first couple decades of hip hop, it's not all just one thing. But then as time went on and people want to hear like hyper focused sounds and very specific things, you get into everybody needing to make these like very specific identities and people starting to feel less and less comfortable with like expressing themselves fully because they need to be one very specific thing to tickle the algorithm in the right way to get somewhere. And it's like, maybe that works for some people, but I feel like if you're like a genuine artist with genuine ideas, like you just gotta be like, I'm down for fucking whatever. You think of somebody like I don't know, like a David Bowie or a Michael Jackson or something like that. Every single record in their catalog sounds different from the last one.
Yeah.
And those are the people that we call the greats in some ways. And like you flash forward to like, some present day artists where it's like, oh, it's the same album again and again and again and again. And it's like, okay, maybe this is cool now, but is this going to stand the test of time?
No. And
Is everybody going to care about these fucking, I'm not going to call any artist out right now, but
you're good.
there's plenty.
I think like that speaks to like a much larger issue in hip hop. Like I said, I'm a huge fan of rock, right? The one thing, for some reason, hip hop has a problem like letting people get older and accepting that like, hey, you're like, it's just like there's like this cutoff where like, hey, if you're 25, like why, like, and I'm 29, right? There hasn't been one part of my life where hip hop music wasn't present or
Sure.
it wasn't around or it didn't exist. Like I was born in '94. Like that was like Ready to Die year. Like
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure Wu-Tang came out that year too. Shout out to the Wu. Like, you know what I mean? Like, so there's a lot of those great MCs, right? And as I've gotten older, I've become huge fans of them. And they still do make incredible music and they still make, and those artists, they do still try new things. The problem is like hip hop, in my opinion, they act like it's a young man's sport. And I think at times that can like hinder the way people think about it, right? Because when the hyper focused music in hip hop, it's not something with like a message. It's not something with like a construct. It's literally this fast lifestyle that is sold. It's like this fantasy that is sold that once you buy it, you realize like, oh, there's nothing here. Like not only is there nothing here, but it's hard to get out of it. And that's something a lot of people like. I mean, I'm not bragging about anything, but I do have like family members that are in those type of situations, and I had an entire community that was making sure I didn't like even have a chance to drive down that path. So for me, like I kind of get a chance to take a step back and look at hip hop and compare it to rock. Like AC/DC could still go sell out a concert tour, but yeah, Big Daddy Kane, who's one of the one of the best MCs of all time, he can't go sell out most arenas.
Sure.
And it's literally just because it's like we don't respect our legends in hip hop. We want, and I get it because it's a competitive battling space, but so is R&B.
Yeah.
And so is pop. Like,
and it's so funny if we talk about rock music almost has the exact opposite problem where like if you look at like not the billboards like a very specific thing to use of like what is being listened to, but in a way it is where it's like all the hip hop on the billboard is going to be whatever is new.
yeah.
Right. And then all of the rock is going to be Guns N' Roses, AC/DC, Metallica. Like no young rock artist can pop off because it's like, oh, this is like, if you're young, we don't want to hear from you.
Yeah.
And then in hip hop, it's like, if you're old, we don't want to hear from you.
And
if you're somebody that's interested in combining music from both of those worlds,
that's
good luck.
Well, see, I need a lot of luck because in a way, that's what I'm trying to do. And that's also another thing about it. I mean, I've been in locker rooms with a lot of black teammates. I've been around a lot of black friends. Most of them like rock music. They might not like outwardly say it, but most of them actually like rock music. Most of them have a favorite. Like if you walk into a crowd and start singing "Numb" by Linkin Park, like no matter where you are, people are going to finish it.
Yeah,
like, you know what I mean.
Definitely.
like so. For me, I just kind of like try to give music that can like hit that part of people's I guess hit that part of people's like souls where they kind of forget, like they kind of be like, no, I just love this music. I love how it sounds. I love the ride it's taking me on. And as you were saying, like with rock, that is a problem, but it can kind of, it also helps in a way because when they are on those tours, right, they can have some young up and coming rock person opening for them. And that can help them start exposing them and helping them get to a bigger platform. Whereas like with rap, it's like, it's almost like we go through a reset process every 2 years. And then it started like the time started like getting slower. I mean, started not slower, getting faster and faster and faster and faster and faster. Now it's like Outkast, like between their first two albums took 2 years. And then I think it was like 4 years between their, no, maybe another two. I think they took 2 years between most albums, right? Like Tupac, he took 2 years most between albums. Biggie took 4 years three between his two albums. Like it takes time to craft, like actually craft art out of
I
your
agree.
life. Like it takes genuine time. And I feel like with rap, we give some people that grace. Like we give Kendrick, well, I won't say we give Kendrick, like they've earned that grace. Like J. Cole's earned that grace. Even Drake, like he's not in the best situation right now, but he's earned that grace. You know what I mean? Like there's art like an ASAP Rocky, a Nas, those guys have earned that grace where they can take time in between. But like for most artists, it's hard for them to really even gain a buzz because if people start liking their song before they can even start memorizing the first two words, there's a new song, there's another one, and it sounds very similar. So it almost sounds like there's a lot of songs where you can put them on like back to back to back, and you wouldn't tell that the beat changed, but it would be by three different artists.
Yeah.
And for me, it's like I don't want one of like any songs on my albums for a beat to sound the same on any. Like I want like there's 13 songs on Lucy. All 13 beats sound different. Like not one sounds same, but it's a story that's woven perfectly together. It's almost like scenes from a movie as opposed to like you're just watching one long documentary.
Sure.
I guess in a way.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's I think like with rap, if we did start actually like I guess like respecting and like really honoring like the legends and the people that actually laid the foundation for it, I feel like we could actually then learn from, because a lot of them like a lot of the problems that come up in the music business, those artists went through it, and instead of listening to those artists that went through it and can help guide them, like if they were, I'll give you like this, right? If they were in the hood, that would be their OG. They would be listening to him. Well, hopefully they'd be listening to him. But once he gets in rap, nobody can tell him anything. And then once everything goes gone, like bad for that new artist.
Yeah.
Oh, well, why didn't you tell me nothing? Why didn't you say nothing then?
Yeah.
It's like
a little bit of money makes anybody stupid.
True. This is true.
That's it's really, really unfortunately that simple. You know what I mean? Like, I've been in situations with work in my life where, reality checks. We'll just leave it at that for sure. And it's hard, the amount of work that I think that like hip music in general, but I think like hip hop has really been devalued in a lot of ways over the past decade or more, just because of like how easy it is to make a song. And it's not easy to make a good song, but it's easy to make a song.
The technology,
like, you know what I mean? Like the technology, access to distribution, all this stuff. Like, you know what I mean? I got a laptop right there. I could rip a beat off of YouTube right now. We could put on a timer. We can have a song in maybe 60 to 90 minutes, completely mastered. I could throw $20 at DistroKid. We could leave today with like a new project. And we could be just talking all this shit like it's the best fucking thing in the world. And it's like, that's just us, fucking around. But like times that by how many people are trying to do that. And like, that's cool. I think that like all music has a right to exist on a digital platform. And like now that like whenever like Spotify to me in a lot of ways, or SoundCloud or any of that, it's like going into like the dollar CD bin at a store where it's like, what the fuck is all this? I don't even know what this is. I don't have the energy to go through it. I almost like find that like on like the underground scale, the internet stuff, it's important. Don't get me wrong. Like I want my CD in that metaphorical dollar bin. Somebody might see it, but I know that the best way for people to find out about me is like in the real world.
Yeah.
So like I'm trying to like focus on like how do I act as an artist with the real world and the internet being two completely different things. So I think if you tie it together too much, most of the time, you just end up getting lost in the internet world and like you're forgetting about what's going on in the real world, which is like actually writing good songs, taking the time to write those good songs.
Yeah.
And performing for people, meeting musicians, meeting promoters, meeting idiots with podcasts. All these things are going to get you so much further in the long game than I think like, you know, a weird, like small fabricated online fan base.
Yeah.
Like if you do good in the real world, this is the thing too. If you do good in the real world, the online stuff grows organically as a result of you doing stuff in the real world. You know, there's so many people that I've seen where I work in live entertainment, and there's a lot of like those like YouTuber type people that are like really crazy followings online, and they have live events and nobody fucking buys tickets to them and nobody goes to them because like they exist in this bubble where it's like you're really popular online, but people just want you on the screen. They don't want to interact with you in the real world. And what we do as musicians is like, this is a real world thing.
It is.
The internet's great as like a, hey, come out to a show, check out a song, but it's so easy to get lost in it.
Yeah, and I saw this post. I think it was by like LeBron a long time ago, and it was like, "Fuck social media, I'm dope in real life."
Sure.
And that's just kind of how I view it. It's like for me, I try to have just my social media, like because before I would put like some personal things up there, but then they had some like negative reactions from other people with that, and I was just like, you know what, I'm just going to make all my social media just about like the music and what I'm doing like in music. And it's really just like that's how like a lot of the crazy stuff that does happen in my life, it just kind of happens. It's almost like oh, I'm gonna go out and try something, or I'm gonna go out and do something today, and then I'll go do that, and then I'll run into somebody and they're like, hey, you want to do this crazy thing? Like, don't worry, it's not like that crazy, but like you want to go to this like this party, you want to go to this is the studio, you want to go work on a song, whatever. And it's like, who knows where that'll go. And so a lot of times just like that's kind of how my life has been, like with just kind of going with the flow in a sense. It's like just being able to just actually be dope, actually really having something to talk about. Like, I mean, once again, I'm not trying to like down or talk bad about any artist, but whenever like you don't, like I saw this thing Bun B said, it was talking about writer's block. And he was like, you're not experiencing writer's block. You just ain't got nothing to say. And I felt that like a lot, because it's like a lot of times when I do have writer's block, it's like I just don't know how to say what I want to say. Or it's because I'm trying to write and I ain't got nothing to say. And what I think as he said, like when you actually have something to say, it's easy to write. When you have a purpose to why you're doing it, it's easy for you to like get through the mundane or the sucky parts of it. It's easy for you to get over your anxiety if there's a like in terms of going to go meet people and going to actually engaging with people and going and talking with people. It's easy to get over that if you believe that the music serves a bigger purpose because there's actually something you're trying to say in it. But if it's just music just to have on the radio, have out and just have on Spotify, then yeah, you're not going to want to leave your bubble, because then you got to deal with the reality that some people might not like your music.
Yeah.
And I'm well aware that I do not expect that if I go play in front of 100 people, all 100 people are going to like it. Now, my ego is telling me all 100 of them are going to become the biggest fans in the world, but that's not reality. Like if it hits 20 people's music, like if it hits 20 people and they like it, perfect.
Yeah.
That works.
I mean, like what we're trying to do is crazy. This is not normal. Once you get into a bubble where it's like, you know, I've been making music and playing shows for like a very, very long time. And like my bubble is all other creative people. And I just take for granted that like me and my friends are not normal. This is not a normal thing. So to like get up on a stage and expect somebody to like engage with your creativity is a crazy fucking ask.
It is.
And it's just like, you need to be thankful for it. When I was very, very young, 16, working at Taco Bell, that's like around the time that I was like starting to like, you know, save up paychecks and buying beat machines and shit and like getting into making music. And I remember talking with my friend Antonio online with me at Taco Bell, flipping quesadillas, making chalupas. And he said some really profound shit to me that's like really stuck with me for like all these years later in my life, you know, as I'm cresting on the big 4-0 here. What he fucking said to me was like, I was like, you know, like we're talking about releasing music, right? Like, you know, I got stuff, I haven't played any shows yet. I don't know what to do. And it's just like, like that fear of rejection. And when I was 16, there was no fucking Spotify or, MySpace wasn't even a fucking thing yet, like nothing, so it's like, I really like, like
you had to burn the CD and pass it out.
I would fucking burn CDs and drop them in the mailbox at venues to get shows and get a callback.
See, I wish I could do that.
That's how it happened.
But
like I was like, I'm not sure what the fuck to do. And he was just like, man, don't worry about it. There's people who don't like the Beatles. And that was it.
Yeah.
And I've thought about that shit like every time I'm like, yeah, you can't fucking please them all.
You can't.
And I'm fucking sick of seeing the Beatles. I don't got a problem with them, but how many times do I need to see a picture of John Lennon while I'm in fucking Giant Eagle just trying to check out? Like, we're done. I'm done with the Beatles. We don't need to keep talking about them. But that's that type of thing where it's like the legacy rock acts. It's like we can't let it go. But then like when it comes to like hip hop stuff, it's like we can't throw it away quicker. It's crazy.
And I think it's just like finding once again, balance. I think it's finding balance somewhere in there. Because once again, there's a lot of people that like when I was younger, and I'm not embarrassed to say that, I used to listen to Soulja Boy, Big Draco.
Hey, he's coming soon.
Hey, tell him I said hi. He go do tell him I said hi anyway. But I used to listen to Soulja Boy a lot. But then as I got older, kind of I'm like, all right, why I don't want to listen to Pretty Boy Swag.
I'm going to tell you this. Okay. I'm not trying to fucking call out Soulja Boy at all. Right. But let's just say Soulja Boy is somebody who really built his legacy online, on MySpace. You know what I mean? And it's like, he's still doing music all these years later. Really, like, who knows how many fucking millions of people. We can go on Soulja Boy's Spotify right now if somebody wants to do it and let me know how many monthly listeners Soulja Boy has.
I think.
But he's fucking playing at Jurgles. And there's nothing wrong with that. But it's like, that's what I'm talking about. Like the expectation versus reality. When you like build yourself up online to a point so much where it's like people only want you to exist as that online rapper, that ringtone MySpace era rapper. It's like your legacy's fucked regardless of everything that you've done.
Well, I think, in my opinion, what would you say? When he came up, we talked about like engaging fans, right? That's one of the most engaging ways too. He was able to like really capitalize on the dance craze and engage with people whenever he's not even in the room. Like they're cranking the Soulja Boy and feeling like he's in the room doing it with them. I mean, I can say that because I was one of those people. So it's like,
well, that was like the whole video. The music video was that.
And it's like, and that makes you feel more engaged. And it's like, oh, you don't know how to crank that? Like, what's wrong with you? Like, if you don't know, like, you could be at the school dance and I know how to crank that. That was a problem.
Yeah.
And that's a type of engagement. Now, I think and that's where it comes back to like the talent part of it. Like, some people's talent is just keeping your attention. Some people's talent is making music. Like, I think for myself, mine's is more making music. Like, attention is what it is. But for some people, they kind of like understand the value of that attention. And I think Soulja Boy is one of them. Like, I wasn't trying to take a shot at Big Draco.
Yeah.
I mean, I would never do that.
But
I think like he kind of understood how to like, okay, I got their attention. And now I'm gonna keep going. Cause it's like, if you think about it recently, he hasn't been like really known for his music for a while, but he's known for like his antics and keeping our attention.
Sure.
And that makes us go back to be like, hey man, remember we used to crank that Soulja Boy back in the day, man?
I think that's the issue right now when it comes to a lot of, I would say like some of these like current legacy hip hop artists that are maybe, cresting on their air quote social expiration date. It seems like the only way they could stay relevant is through drama and not through creativity.
And I think that's what hurts, because also it's like, I mean, listen, I love Michael Jackson. Love him insane. Like, he's my all-time favorite artist, right? And as you said earlier, all of his music sounds different. And if you listen to it, though, it captures the time era it was in, though.
Yeah.
Like, Bad sounds like the late 80s. Thrillers is the soundtrack for the early 80s. Like, Off the Wall literally sounds like the disco era and R&B era. Dangerous sounds like the New Jack Swing era that was starting to bubble. History sounds like the hip hop genre that was starting to like really pop. And then Blood on the Dance Floor, which I think is extremely underrated and a lot of people don't know about. Like, I think that's like one of his best, because it's like it's a mixture of his own like paranoia and his attempt to mix all those sounds in one. And I think it works in some ways, and other ways it doesn't. But that's that's taking a chance. And then the last one, Invincible, was sounded like an R&B, but it sounded like that time of R&B, like the Scott Storch. I can't think of the other person's name, and it's like literally on the tip of my tongue. But the person that like did the beat for whatever, I'll think of it later
All good.
on. but like those all sounded different. They all captured it. Like he adjusted and adapted to the time. What a lot of rappers do, they get caught up in their ego and they're like, no, I'm gonna make a same like the same way that song hit in like in 95, I'm gonna make a song that sounds exactly like that in 2005. And it's like that's a whole different, it's a whole like listen, your fans aren't like did you keep your fans' attention long enough for them to release like to love that in 2005? Or were you or did you not? And
Yeah.
I think with a lot of the older artists, some of them adjust, like Mace. I don't know if you heard like Mace and like Jadakiss, I think are two great examples of it. They're able to adjust and get on any type of beat and like kill it. There's a lot of other good ones. I don't want to disrespect to say those two, but there's a lot of like they're able to get on like really any type of beat throughout the years, and they've been able to like work their flow. Fabulous is another one, being able to work his flow on multiple type of beats. And you see like the ones who've been able to like stay, like the way Kendrick's beats sound now aren't the way they sounded when he started. The same thing with Drake, same thing with J. Cole. It's like there's an evolution where they're able to like adjust and adapt, which is a part of this game. And that's the part of the ego a lot of people don't like to deal with, is that like in reality, you have to adjust and adapt to other things that are going on. Okay, people like that sound. Well, how do I take that sound and incorporate it into mine? Not change my sound completely, but if it's just adding one more or adding a little more 808s, adding a few more kicks, adding a few more snares to it, because that's what people like nowadays. All right, I can still put my flow on top of that.
Yeah.
Like I can still like put my spin on top of that. And I think a lot of older rappers just kind of shy away from that.
Well, I think that like maybe some people shy away from it for one reason or another. And I think also too, some people just might not have like the just the creative juices
Mhm.
in the fridge, if you will, to think about that. I think that like, art is like a very um condensed and what's concentrated burst of like human emotion that has
Mm.
been like, you know, crafted in a way to tell you a story or take you to a certain place and time and things like that. And like I think that if you are a genuine artist that continues to live, and release music for 2 years, 4 years, 6, 8, 10, you get to the point where it's like you're gonna change as a person.
Yeah.
I'm not the same person I was when I was 16 flipping quesadillas at the Edgewood Town Center Taco Bell. I'm not. But like, the music that I made then was like a receipt of who I was at that time and like a reflection of what I thought was popular music at the time. And it's like it's changed. And I
Yeah.
think for you it's going to naturally change as long as you engage with your art as like a natural human being. Like your tastes and things are going to change and all that stuff, you know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
like there might be, I had a few years where I was vegetarian, and like those who I was as a person. I had a
Yeah.
few years where I listened to absolutely nothing but like really crazy progressive rock music. That's just where I was in that time frame. And now it's like if there's more than there's like a certain density. If there's so many notes per bar, I don't want to listen to it anymore and lose an interest if it's too busy. But you
Nah,
change things. You're gonna evolve, and music's always gonna be different. You just have to like listen to your heart and just do what feels right in the moment.
No, I 100%, 100% agree with that. Like, I mean, even with my musical journey, like the artist I was 4 years ago, like I feel like I'm way better just in terms of stage recording, like just being comfortable dealing with the music game and everything. Like I feel I'm in a much better space, and it's because like I actually went through the process.
Yeah,
I feel
takes
like
time.
yeah, you can't like a lot of people like one of my favorite Mac lines was like I be going through it, y'all just go around it. But it's really not that different when you think about it. And it's like I've always like loved that line because it's like that's true. Like we're all trying to get to the same place. And there's this path that you can go through and it sucks, or you can go around and hope that it works. But what I found is like actually going through the path, what it allows you to do is kind of lay your foundation, lay your groundwork. Like I can release singles that sound like or that have more like club style beats, right? But if you go listen to my albums, you'll hear who I really am. I feel like a lot, like, well, I'm saying, I feel like some artists, they get popping off of a sound, right? They don't ever actually really fully introduce themselves to an audience or to their audience. It's like, oh, we just like that song you made. So it's like, all right, now I got to make that sound again. And I
Oh
got to make
yeah.
that sound again.
Yeah.
Instead of being like, nah, this is like, go listen to that album and you'll hear who I am. You'll hear
Yeah.
like the depth of me. And then
It
that's,
it's like if you want to be viewed at by the world as a genuine artist, then you just have to be a genuine artist all the time, or else you might get stuck with some shit like that.
yeah,
That's the type of thing where it's like, I've always been super afraid of the concept of like, oh yeah, maybe I could do something dumb that's very pandering that could hit. But then all of a sudden it's like I have to wear a Halloween costume for the rest of my career and be this thing that I'm not. And I think about that sometimes when I see some artists that are like successful in some way or another. And it's just like, is this really you?
yeah.
Or is this just like, are you making music for yourself or are you making music for a label or a character? And I don't know. I mean, some people are happy to just be told what to do as long as they can, be on stage in front of a bunch of people and whatever. That's it. That works for some people.
Yeah, I'm not one of those people.
Yeah.
I'm not one of those people. Like, don't get me wrong. I mean, it's a feeling that feels better than playing in some of the biggest arenas in the country, like playing basketball there. And like being on stage, whether there's 5 people, 20 people, 30, 50, whatever, being on stage and like being able to like actually see people seeing me, like how I view myself or how like, or actually, yeah, just seeing me like fully comfortably vulnerable out in front of people, like, hey, this is me. Like, it's bears. I mean, not as bare, I mean, but as naked, but bare, like bare in the sense of like, I'm bearing.
We already talked about being controversial, Shel. All
True,
right.
true. I wouldn't go that far. But like burying myself and being like, hey, this is me. Like, this is the type of music I like. This is the person I am. These are the good, the bad. And that's the thing a lot of people don't want to deal with is the bad. For me, what's helped me like with writing music is like accepting the times when I was wrong in a situation and like looking back on it and be like, well, why was I wrong? Well, because I probably was being stubborn in this situation. I'm always stubborn in certain situations. So for me, like, I think just like the whole process for making music allowed me to see myself, like, I guess, see myself as I've always viewed me. And now it gives me a chance to stand in front of people and do the same thing. And a lot of artists don't get to feel like that. They don't get to feel like they're like completely exposing themselves. Some do.
Yeah, totally.
Some do.
Yeah.
Some do. But a lot don't get a chance to feel like they're like, hey, this is me. Like, this is my music. And like one of the highlights for me, like when we did Mr. Smalls for Millville, was like I had like obviously like my friends and family there, but like as the more people started coming in, like there was like this section up front that's like dancing. I could see like how into it they were. And then I'm looking out in the back of the crowd and I could see like how into they were and looking up top and seeing people like waving their arms over like the banner and everything. And I'm like, yo, this is actually like, oh yeah, they're rocking with it. Like we got something. The set was literally like, it was a 40-minute set, but it was me like telling my journey of coming through music and the ups and downs, the pitfalls of it, the goods, the bads, like all that goes along with it. And then getting to the end and like being able to actually take those people on the journey and then having them reach out afterwards and not saying like, oh, hey, you did really great. Being like, hey, that was a really great show that you put on. That was like a performance that you put on. Like, and that's kind of what I want it to feel like when I do perform. I don't want it to just, because people like, I think it's starting to get caught on now, but like people aren't coming just to watch rappers walk back and forth or even singers walk back and forth and look like they don't even like their music.
Sure.
Like, no, they want to come and see a show. Like they want to come and see somebody actually like put their all like on in front of them. Like that's why
go
people
back to the greats.
Yeah.
Watch the playback.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, you can. The idea of the show, I don't know what happened or when it happened, when it was like I'm too cool to like do the show, like too
That's,
cool.
to
It's
me,
just like,
I mean, it comes
the
up. But to me,
attitudes,
that's like
yeah.
the stupidest thing, right? Because I never understood this part. Because back in the day, the coolest dudes were the singers.
yeah,
Like they were the ones they were the coolest dudes. And as you get older, it's like the rappers and everything. But if you think about one of the most popular rappers of all time is Tupac, right? Tupac knew, like, all right, no, I can't always be super tough. I still got to make music for the ladies. I still got to let people inside my mind to be vulnerable. Like, it wasn't like, oh, I got to be super tough all the time to give off this cool image. Like, no, I need like thug love, like, you know what I'm saying? Thug passion. There's all these things he's coming up with to be like, hey, like thugs need love too. You know what I'm saying? Like, we get lonely. Like he's allowing himself to be vulnerable. Whereas like now it's like the cool thing is, oh, I don't care about anything. I don't care about anything. It's cool not to care. Like, why? Because then you're gonna be the first one bitching when shit goes wrong.
Yeah.
So like, I never understood that, because like when you look back on it, like the dudes that like put on the greatest show or put on like Little Richard, right? Got so many girls back in the day, but used to get clowned on all the time, and it's like, cool. Like that was cool. Like for him, Elvis was cool, but he used to get clowned on. Guys used to hate him, call him Elvis the Pelvis and other worse things. So but it's like, that's just how it works. That is Prince.
Yeah.
Prince. I mean, there's a whole nice, beautiful skit about how he basically dressed in a blouse and would get every girl in the room.
Yeah.
Be the coolest person in the room, dressed like what everybody would be too embarrassed to dress like. But he could bag everyone. Why? Because he wasn't trying to be cool. He just was.
Sure. I mean, coolness or confidence or whatever it is, like I think that a genuine confidence and what's the word? We'll just say self-appreciation. I'm trying to think of a better word for that, but just
self-esteem.
Self-esteem. That's it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Good job. You could take over the podcast. No, the self-esteem thing, like I think that even without it being said, people can see that and like they gravitate towards that. So I think as an entertainer, it's really important to be like, hey, like this is my party. You're all invited, and be like a host in some ways.
That's
and not just be like, why is everybody like, you go to a party, nobody wants to talk to the weirdo that's sitting on the couch staring at the ground, right? You're like, stay away from that guy. But so many people try to be that guy on stage.
And then don't understand why people don't like don't want to come see it. It's like, no offense, but it's like if they're coming out to see a show, right? They want to come out and see somebody actually like put everything into it.
Yeah.
Like actually like really seem like they believe wholeheartedly. Like I shouldn't say I know like the feedback I've gotten, right? A lot of people have loved how much I'm not afraid to like move and dance around. Being as tall as I am, like I'm not afraid to move and dance around and just let the music take me wherever I feel it. Because then they can genuinely sense that. They can genuinely feel that like I'm not up here trying to play a part. Like, no, this is me. Like, am I, turned all the way up to an 11, but this is still me. It's just me turned up to an 11 and on stage with a full band going crazy. But at the end of the day, once I step off the stage, I'm still that same person. It's not like there's this complete shift where I go from being like on stage, like I'm rah rah, and then off of it, I'm like, oh yeah, it's cool.
Yeah.
Like it's like, no, it's like, there's a very, very similar energies when I'm like on stage and when I'm off of it. Only difference is when I'm on, as I said, I just turn it up to 11 so everybody in the room can feel it.
Yeah. You're putting a show on. Like I get this a lot whenever I like meet new people or people like have never like seen me or my band play before. And it's always like, wasn't expecting that. And it's like, what the fuck are you expecting? This is a show. What do you want me to do? Just sit here and be cool and be silly and crack some little jokes?
But see, for me, I actually like to use that to my advantage because it's like, no one is expecting that from me. And to like, because most tall people in rap, they're lumbering, and you know what I'm saying? But like, as I said, it's the best word to use. They're lumbering. But for me, as I said, like I'm athletic and I didn't really sustain too many injuries. So it's like I can still move around very, very well. And, I'm not ashamed to admit it. I grew up practicing the beaded dance at home. I grew up learning all the steps to every little step I take in like that video. Like I grew up practicing these dance moves. And for a long time, I was embarrassed to show them to anybody. But as I said, once I go on stage, it's like I'm turned up to an 11. It's like I'm not afraid of anything. I just feel whatever the music's taking me, and we just go from there. Like a lot of people, as I said, there's just a lot of people that don't get a chance to experience that. And it's like I feel bad for people who don't, that like go on stage and they like kind of hold back, because it's like 9 times out of 10, 9.5 times out of 10, you're not going to get booed. You're not going to get laughed at. You're not going, because it's like the people that are there watching, they're usually there to support. So
Oh yeah.
they're not going to, when you get off stage, be like, yo, that was the worst thing I ever seen. They're going to probably tell you the things they liked. And if there's something they think you could change, they'll tell you. But I feel like a lot of people are afraid of putting themselves in that arena and being seen in that light, because it's like whenever you're just walking back and forth, you're being the weirdo. And I shouldn't say the weirdo because I'm a weirdo myself, but like the weird kid, like on the couch, just sitting there talking to no one. Like, if you're going to give off that energy, no one's going to come and talk to you. And if you bring that on stage, no one's going to want to listen to what you have to say.
Yeah.
But I feel like I don't have that problem. Like, I feel like my stage presence has only gotten better. My moves have only gotten better. Like the the overall like people that I'm like playing and like and able to incorporate in the show. Like when I'm playing with the band, I think it's great. When I'm playing without the band, I still think it's great because I know I'm able to put that much energy into it. It's like with the band, it gets turned up to a 12. Without the band, it's an 11.
Sure.
But, that's what a band does.
Yeah.
Like, but for me, either way, it's like getting on stage, there's this like freedom that I feel. And it's one that I really wish that I could like bottle up and just like keep that feeling. But like I said, like a lot of artists, they don't get to experience that because it's like they're afraid to put themselves in that situation. Where with basketball, I learned a long time ago, like walking into games, I would be so nervous before the tip off. I'd be nervous. If I was getting subbed in the game, I'd be nervous. But once you get out there, it's like, oh, it's the same walk I've been doing my entire life. It's the same shot I've been taking my entire life. It's the same thing I've been doing my entire life. What do I have to be afraid of?
Yeah.
Like, and it's the same thing with music. It's like when I go on stage, like before I go on there, I'm like, yeah, the Millville show, right? It was the perfect thing. I wanted it to be perfect. I wanted it to be absolutely perfect, like perfection. Starts. My guitarist, he comes out late. We're supposed to do like this whole big interest. Guitarist comes out late or walks on stage late. He goes to play his guitar, stands up, unplugs his guitar. Like
Cool.
right from the jump. And in my mind, I immediately was like, oh, this is going to be great now because like it can't be perfect.
Oh yeah.
So now it's just going to be fun.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
And while the show was going on, it's like, I like looking back at the footage, it's hysterical to me now. In the moment, I was pissed. Like they're like, after like the third song, my music connected to like my AirPods. And so it stopped playing like in Mr. Smalls, but we have a band. So it's still going. I noticed it missed. And I'm just like, I'm not stopping because I know we're on a time limit. I'm not stopping and restarting. So I'm like, I'm just going to keep going. The band kept up with me. And so while I'm rapping, I'm like walking around stage and I'm like looking at Brandon being like, yo, go check on the music. Go, like check. And then after a while, I was like, he thinks I'm rapping at him because he's holding up his camera going like this. Like, oh yeah, this is a great shot. This is a great shot. We're getting a really good one. And then I was like, just fucking finish the show. just fucking finish the show. And then like I get the story going, like, and I didn't miss a beat, didn't miss one word, nothing. So I'm like still going. And I look back and like my producer, he's like standing over to the side, like by like my phone trying to figure it out. And I'm looking at him like, yo, what's wrong with it? What's like still not messing up anything. And then finally I was like, you know what, let me just go finish this song and then I'll go figure out what it is. And for me, that made that performance fun because it's like, it was just controlled chaos.
Sure.
The music hit. Like the people that were watching it probably didn't notice a lot of the shit was going wrong. But for me, I did. And for me, it made it easy for me not to be like, all right, this doesn't have to be perfect because it can't be. It just needs to be as fun as possible. I need the people that are out there, I need them to see how much fun I'm up here having. Like I need them to see how much like I'm putting everything into this.
It's like at a theme park, if something goes wrong with one of the rides, they're just kind of like, just close it down, guide everybody around. Don't pay attention to this. Just get them around it. We'll get it fixed later. You know, just kind of like smiling faces. Don't look at the burning building behind me. Just
don't
keep
worry
going.
about that.
Yeah, don't worry about that. We're here. We're still having fun. There's other rides.
And that's to me, and that's why like that's just how it is. That's how the music part is. Like most people don't remember the mess ups from the show. They remember the parts they loved about it or they really were engaged.
Unless you give them a reason to remember the mess ups.
Unless you give them a reason.
Bro, I mean, without getting into the full reason why, I walked off stage and left a venue before. Shit. Like all my gear, all the band on the stage didn't say nothing. I was so pissed off in the moment. I was just gone, MIA. left. That was it. Show ended. Done.
Well, see, that's why like
And like there was people there that had never seen me before. And like to this day, that was like 10 years ago. I still feel like a fucking fool for doing that.
I mean, but that's the thing. It's like hindsight. Like in the moment, like you might have been right because a lot of
I
stuff
was pretty mad.
Yeah, if you were mad, then it's like might not have been the best performance. And it's like, listen, I feel like that's one of the things I feel are the benefits of rapping is that, well, my style of rap at least, is that like if the beat cuts off, you ain't going to notice because it's like I not that like I'm good at freestyling or coming up with stuff off the top of my head, but I do remember most of the verses I've written. And it's like all of them are written in a cadence where it's like with the beat, it's fire. Without the beat, it's fire because now you can just hear me even more clearly. Like yesterday, we were walking up and down Southside, like hanging up posters for Lucy. And we went to this one tattoo shop and I asked him like hang up a poster and he was like, "Oh, you a rapper?" I was like, "Yeah." He was like, "Well, rap some." And I was like, shit. In my head, I'm like trying to be like, I ain't gonna freestyle this. So like, what am I gonna do? So I was just like, oh, I already know what to do. Like once again, I was talking about like it's the feeling nervous for a moment until it's like, oh no, I already know what to do. So then I did my little freestyle. He's like, oh no, that's nice, bro. Yeah, let me hang that up. And then so now if you go through Southside, there's nice little 20 posters up and down East Carson Street. You know what I'm saying?
Cool.
Scan the QR code if you see it. But yeah, it's like I would like I don't say battle anybody, but I would battle anybody like with music or without music. Like I don't like I'm not afraid of like if I had like you're saying like if the band kept messing up, I'd be like, yo, stop. And then just started rapping. And then just told like actually that's a part of that did happen. Like there was a part where me and my drummer got off sync and I had to like kind of give him the sign to like stop. And then like I just kept going and then he was able to pick back up the tempo and pace from where I was like rapping at. So, it's for me, like I get why you walked off. I mean, hey, I get it. Shit goes. I was if some more things would have went wrong that night, I might have had a full BF on stage. Like a full BF. So.
Yeah, it wasn't a good situation, but that's all right. Things happen. It was a learning experience, though.
That's supposed to.
I will say this: I probably learned more from that show about myself and about being an artist than I would have if the show would have just went well. Mm. It was a hard lesson. But it was a good one. In hindsight, I can value the experience, even though I was a fucking fool.
Well,
because I think we're bound to be a fool. When we all have our days. We're bound to. It's gonna happen one day or another. At least there wasn't that many people there.
Trust me, I'm right there with you. Like no one, like I said, no one's perfect, and that's the part of like being human. And it's like, listen, I'm a 6'7" person, and my favorite color is black, and occasionally I'll wear like more showboaty stuff like this. I like wearing like these 2 rings, and I like wearing this. After a while, I just had to get comfortable in who I was and being like, you know what? Some part of this is weird. Some part of it isn't perfect, but it's going to be me no matter what. It's my journey. These are my lessons I got to learn. This is my walk I have to take. So I might as well do it being how I want to be or looking how I want to look. But I think to your point, like, those are lessons. Like most lessons that like really hit home, they're not like learned in a good way. Usually it's like, I know for myself, usually it's like I would do something and then I would get caught and it's like, all right, well, where did I mess up in that? Like it's like most lessons are learned the hard way, especially the ones that stick. They're the ones that like you learn the hard way because then when you start seeing yourself get to that, well, I know for myself, when I start seeing myself get into familiar patterns or familiar ways of thoughts or familiar just things that like aren't good and they're leading towards the road. And it's like, I've already learned this lesson. Like I kind of know how to like stop or turn around, or I know what I would do if I did end up in that situation and I didn't have the time to turn around. Yeah. Like I feel like if that situation happened again, and it might happen again, who knows? Like
it's been close, bro. It's been close.
I feel like you'd be like, nah, I got it this time. Like,
I got definitely. This. I think that the biggest thing that I learned from that experience is the importance of having the right people in your corner and on your team, which is pretty much where we started our conversation today, was about like finding those right people. And you may remember me going off on a little bit of a tangent, being like, nobody can ever fucking help me and the world's awful or whatever I said, which was probably some real flagrant shit. But I don't mean that genuinely. But that experience was one thing where like in that moment, I was like, the people that are here, I can't rely on these people. And before I put myself into a position where I could be like this vulnerable again and I'm trying to do this stuff, I got to make sure I have people around me that aren't even going to let me get to this position in the first place. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean? So now I'm very hyper aware and very hyper critical of the people that are in my circle. Cause like I only get one chance to fucking do this. You know what I mean? We're not cats.
Oh no, I agree.
So it's like, I want to do it right. And I want to do it right with people that want to do it right too, that
Yeah.
I vibe with, that have the same energy, that have the same drive and the same passions. And it's just like,
And
just enjoy it while I can.
see, I understand. Like I was from basketball, right? I kind of understood that because I had like my own team in terms of trainers, and they were people that I trusted because I knew that when I worked with them, I got results and it paid off. There were some other, like some of my family was like, "Why are you working out with them? Like, you need to go work out with so and so. So and so works out with them, or so and so." And it's like, it's great that that athlete goes and works out with him. That doesn't mean his stuff will work for me.
Sure.
Like, I'm not opposed to trying his stuff, like trying out like the workout tips and everything he has. But if like if it doesn't gel with me, it's like I already got my team where we get really great results. And with music, once I kind of like really started planning shows and kind of started thinking about what I needed, it's like it's really difficult to like work and do this
Yeah.
because those hours you're missing during the day, it's like there's a lot of important things that could happen. And so that's when I started being like, all right, well, I kind of do need to like find like some type of management. Originally I had like someone else come in and help me out, and it was one of those situations like they're friends, so I wasn't going to be like I wasn't going to like snap on them or like spaz on them and just and go off on them, but I also had to understand that, like, hey, like as you said, we only get to do this once. Like as I said, I played basketball and I played it at a very high level, and I can tell you like to make it to pros. I'm sorry, to make it to like the college or like Division 1 level is very thin. I mean, it's very hard to make it to overseas is very difficult. To make it to the G League is difficult. To make it to the NBA, it's like the real percentage and chances of it are zero in a sense, like if we're being honest. And for me with music, it's the same thing with this. It's a 1 in a million chances that it can work, but I think I can make it work. And part of making that work is you have to have like a team around you because you can't do it all by yourself. Like you can't. And because we make music, a lot of times, you know, like I call it my asylum when it's like I just don't want to be bothered with anybody. I just want to go full Vincent Van Gogh and just go paint some crazy stuff. Like, but at most artists, when they're coming up with stuff or they're creating or they're trying to dive into themselves to be able to really pull something out, it's like they need to go to those alone times. And the hard part is like taking the music from those alone times and now presenting it to a team. And I mean, even like, yeah. And then after that, I was doing my friend. And so I kind of got with Nightfall, and like, even things with that, and everything's been peachy with that. So it's like, but things have their like growing stages, right? Like
Yeah.
you have to grow through things. You have to learn how to work together. You have to learn like nothing's perfect. And that's a misconception. Like people think championships are won by teams that all get along. That shit's not true. People like how many bands do you know that played 20 years but they hate each other?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's like it's more about results. And it's like we can all be, you know, everybody can try to be nice, but at some point you're going to have to like face reality and be like, hey, this is what we need to do. I can't be nice about it because this is falling behind or this isn't working
Sure.
or this isn't going how I want it to go. It's like some people, when something's not going their favor, they might just kind of like shell up, pun not intended, like might just shell up and be like, all right, it is what it is. But I've never been that type of person. It's like, I believe way too much in the music for me not to like, I know how much I put into it. So it's like, I try to demand that for most of the people on the team, whether everybody gives it to me or not, that's up to them.
Sure.
But at the end of the day, it's like, we're all a team and we're all learning how to work together. And that's just a part of it where it's an adjustment period. And it's like, you have like for myself, I have to like, yeah, temper like my expectations. I can't expect everything to go perfect. I can't expect everything to go right because on my music journey, 5% of it's gone right. and yet I'm still sitting here talking with you.
Sure.
So I think something's working.
Well,
You know what I mean?
there's like right and wrong. I think the most important thing is to make sure that like, you are on a general base enjoying the journey regardless of the results, you know what I
Hmm.
mean? And like everybody's definition of success is different. Success day to day is different.
Yeah.
And I think it's just as long as you're like moving forward and you're feeling good about what's going on, then to me that's like success. There's crazy levels of success that nobody has fucking control over.
No.
You know what I mean? Like when you talk about the greats, even, current, past, present, and future, very few of those people actually have any control of their actual lives or their
Yeah.
actual art. And that's a scary place to be in. So it's like, how far do you even want to make it? Who
No.
knows?
No, I
Like,
agree. Well,
you never know.
the way I kind of viewed it was like whenever I started putting my team together, that was something I did kind of have in my mind was like, I don't want to get in a situation where someone's being like, hey, you got to make this type of music, or hey, you got to create this. Like, I wanted to make sure that it was in an advantageous situation for myself where it's like, no, I know how much I put into this. I know what like my music sounds like. I know that it could hit. And then it's like just kind of moving accordingly to that, like
Yeah.
actually knowing like what my worth is and demanding that like, hey, if you believe in it because you saw it, cool. If you don't, let me know because then we can go a different direction.
Yeah.
And for me, I'm just not afraid to like actually ask that because like I said, I've been on teams and it's like you can't be all buddy buddy when you're down, like when your team's not playing good and you're down 10 points as halftime and it's like you need to turn it around. You can't walk in and be like, hey, everything's all good. Hey, we're all great. It's like, no, sometimes you gotta walk in there like, yo, motherfucker, we need this shit to get done. And a lot of people in music, that's not something they're trained on doing or trained to like actually experiencing like hey, that once you get in like those confrontational or like not confrontation, but once you like you're in the heat of battle in the arena, that yeah, everything isn't going to be all peachy and cream and nice and shit. It's like, no, there's times where it's like I do have to be like, yo, I need this to get done. Like I'm not asking for it to get done. Like I need it to get done or I'll go find someone to get it done.
Sure.
And that's just a part of it. Actually, no, that's just a part of it where I guess that's got to be more assertive, and that's something I learned from basketball. A lot of times, I wouldn't step up and take my advantages, and I let a lot of moments pass me by because I wanted to play into the team game. And while I still do play into the team game here, the one thing I'm not going to let happen is let any moments pass me by because, like you said, I only have one shot at this shit, like
Yeah.
one. And it's like if I only have one shot at it, I need to make sure that not only am I firing on all cylinders, but that everyone around me is firing on all cylinders as best as they can.
It's a Death Star shit.
Yeah.
It takes a team, but everybody has to be working together to fucking get it on that, that 1 in a million shot.
Yeah. So that's that Death Star shit. That might be a bar. You might get a little songwriting credit for that. But that's how I do feel about like the artists that I bring to the rap cave and like we're sitting there making all this incredible music and sparring and going with each other. I'm not, as I tell them, I'm not just, I don't invite them to the studio just to have them come here and waste their time. Like, nah, I want all of us to be able to leave here feeling like we were productive and we have something that's helping us move forward in our musical and artistic journeys. And I'm extremely proud of probably putting together like a little project now full of like those songs. And it's like I'm extremely proud of like just the versatility that's on there, just the people that are on there that like none of the verses sound the same, the beats don't sound the same, the producers like that are on there and like the people that have actually been a part of it that aren't artists that have just been a part of it to help me like build kind of like this network of jokingly, I call us like the Legion of Doom and shit.
Sure.
Like that is kind of like how I do it. Like, I jokingly, because I do feel like that's us. Like we're the party interrupters. Like we're the ones to kind of be like, all right, forget all that stuff that y'all liked or y'all think y'all like. Here's some shit y'all are going to feel and you're either going to love it or you might hate it, but you're going to feel something. That's the problem. I feel like with most people are, when it comes to music, it's like, it's just numb. It's like, oh, I can dance to this, but I don't want to listen to it because I ain't feel nothing to it.
Yeah, the hard thing is finding the crowds, finding the people that are actually in a situation that are actually interested in listening to new music.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like finding people that are actually interested in engaging in something in that moment and aren't just there because their friend drug them out and they can't wait to leave, or just there to see like their friend. And there's not many of those fucking people.
Well,
So, but you can find them. You can
There
fucking
really
find them, you know?
there's not, but I mean to me that's like the enjoying. That's what I get the most enjoyment from this, is that like I feel like the dance that I'm doing is crazy, right? As we talked about earlier, it's insane and it's crazy, but it's only a dance that a few people can pull off. It's only a few that I think that you have to be like a rare breed to be able to really do. And and so because it's like such like rare air that I'm trying to like go for, it's like there are certain ways. I'm sorry, there are certain things I can do and there's certain things I can't do. There's certain people I can associate with and there's certain people I can't. And a lot of times I do need to, as I said, got to make sure that everything is moving forward. Like, I mean, you know this better than I do. I've been around so many artists where it's like, yo, we're going to do this. Oh yeah, we're going to link up and do this. We're going to link up and do this. We should do this. We should get on a song together. We should do this. We should do that.
Yeah.
Like you can ask, I got Caleb right there. Like I have like a team, it's called GSD, stands for Get Shit Done. Cause like, I'm really not like one of those people that just enjoys like oh yeah, all right, yeah, we're going to do this. Oh yeah, should do this. We should do this. It's like
hard, man. It's really, really hard to like, you know, that's the thing is like my biggest downfall when it comes to music stuff is like that collaboration shit. Because like anytime I try to work with other people, I can never work with people that have like the same energy or the ethic. And like when I was like younger and like putting out like a bunch of records, I would always get like other people to do verses on stuff and things like that. But it's just like I feel like the energy was always like did you write this to this song, or is this just like some random shit that you're putting on my stuff, you know? And it's just like, and I try to like meet up with people and like sit down and like let's like work on stuff, and like I just have a really hard time with that. And I've just kind of been like, you know, I'm just gonna do my own thing, man. I'm just doing my own thing. But you can't. I feel like that's what gets me, you know, where it's just like all of a sudden I'm unintentionally like putting myself out of frame, and all of a sudden you know, it's just like, where'd he go? I thought he was making music, and it's just like. I need to just do better. It's like the only thing I'm good at collaborating on, it feels like, is like doing like the podcasts and doing shows and things like that. But like my like art, it's too, I'm too like hyper focused on like oh, it's my thing. It's really hard to let go of that though.
Well, that's the part for me that I've gotten a lot better by like I'm a huge fan of gorillas, right? Like as I've gotten older, I've gotten way more into them. And so I was like, I want to, like, I like the rap and stuff, but I was like, I want to be able to make like just crazy sounding out there music. And, you know, it doesn't need to be tied back to me. It can just be tied to, and so I came up with this thing called, I don't even know what it is, but Canvas. Like I came up with that, and then I started like inviting artists. And as I kind of would frame it to them, it's like, yeah, I'm like here's a paintbrush, help me paint this canvas. Like I'm trusting you, like, because I've heard you, listened to your music, like actually scouted and studied you. I believe that you can make this painting more beautiful than it is right now. Like you can take it to like the next level.
Yeah.
And I think that, you know, part of for me with the collaboration part was like, and it's something my granddad used to tell me all the time. You know what I mean? You don't know shit. you don't know shit. So
yeah, sure.
It's like, sorry.
No, it's fine.
But it's like, that's just how it is. It's like there's times where it's like I'll be like, no, I know this, and then I have to hear my granddad's voice go, "Well, you don't know shit. Like you don't know nothing about nothing."
It's like earlier at the beginning of the conversation, you like referred to like your songs as like your kids, and it's like nobody ever wants to say their kid's ugly. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like you need somebody else to be like, hey, like I know that you're feeling this right now, but like, well, maybe if you tried this.
Well, see, and I think once again, see, I like to tie like my musical experience with my whole life experience.
Yeah.
And the same way, like I said, I have a strong like family, but I also was kind of raised by like Beaver Falls, like where I'm from. Like there was a lot of like, you know, the old saying, like it takes a village to raise a child. Like that really applies to me. So whenever like I'm in there with like these artists, it's like my mom wouldn't let someone babysit us that she didn't trust.
Sure.
So it's like, if I trust you enough to give you the paintbrush to to watch my kid, it's like I 100% know that they'll be fine whenever on the other end.
Yeah.
Whether I hear it, there's been verses where somebody's done it, and like I'll be like, I don't really like this. Like I ain't feeling it. And then like I'll look over at Caleb, I'll look at a few of the other people there in the studio, and they'll like be nodding their heads like, yo, this is fire. And then I just once again have to tell myself, well, you don't know shit. Shut up. Like it's a lot of people that like I heard this mayor say this on like the mayor of Pittsburgh say this at a lecture when I was in college, and it was like one of the greatest things I ever heard. And it was just like, sorry, that was a different saying, but it was actually this old man on the street. He was telling it to a young kid. I just happened to be walking by him. He was like, never miss an opportunity to shut the fuck up. And I have to like tell myself that constantly, because it's like I sometimes do have the complex where it's like, all right, I think I know everything, or I feel like I know a little bit enough about everything, and I need that side of me. I need to be able to hear that my granddad's voice being like, "Yo, shut up, because you don't know nothing. Like you don't. Like you're here to learn." Like that's because I also feel that like anytime I'm in the studio with any of those guys, or really with anybody, like here today, like I'm like, yes, we're here to talk, but for me, I'm here to learn. Like you know what I mean?
Hey,
And it's like so with them when they're in the studio with me, I feel like we're learning, and they learn from me the same way I learn from them, and that's why like that's one of I mean, if not probably is like the highlight of my music thing is being able to work with all these artists and then being able to like actually translate that energy on the stage and have them join me on stage too. It's a I don't know, it's just a beautiful thing that we've been painting on this canvas, and just want to it's been like a sense of freedom that like I definitely enjoy, because like as you said, there are parts with me where I know like, all right, my music, it does have to have a certain type of sound to hit people. Like I do have to like kind of worry about trying to cater it to people, still making sure it represents myself, but that people can digest it and enjoy it.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
It's like making dinner for someone.
Mm-hmm.
You can't just throw anything out there and expect someone to eat it.
Yeah, just because you like it doesn't mean they're going to like it.
Yeah.
And that's like with the collaboration part, that's what really helped me understand, is that like just because I like it or I don't like it doesn't mean other people don't love it and don't like it. It's like understanding, as you said, we're all human. And part of being human is accepting that other people are human, that we walk around every day or surrounded by imperfect humans, because no one is perfect.
Yeah.
That's part of life. But for me, that's been part of the musical journey, is just being like, okay, these guys aren't perfect. And the reason why like I like working with them is because they recognize that they're not perfect. And they're working the same way I'm working to just be the best version of ourselves that we can be. Not trying to be better than anybody else, because I don't really feel like as I said, I don't feel like I'm competing or really in competition with anybody. I just feel like I'm just trying to be the best artist that I can be, and take it to a level that I think that I know that we can reach with it. And when I'm around them, it's just sometimes like my guy Sir Lure has a lot of stuff going on in his life, and as I kind of tell him, yo, if you need to just come into the studio, come through. If you need to call me, call me. But it is kind of more of like it's like a collective bond in a way with all of us, where
Definitely.
it's like we're cool being perfectly vulnerable in front of each other, because we know that we're in a room where if our verse ain't hot, somebody ain't afraid to tell us that it ain't working.
Sure.
But if it is, like, you gonna have a room full of people giving you the thumbs up, being like, hey, that shit hits. Like, you don't need to redo it. You don't need to rework. You don't need to go punch in here. All of it hits. Like, we're telling you.
Yeah.
And I think like that's just, it's helped me kind of like separate myself a little bit, just in terms of like the producing and the music side of it, is actually being able to invite a bunch of artists into the rap cave or the studio, and doing my best to like remove the ego from the room. And the way I do that is by removing my own ego first. And being like, hey, like there might be a chance I'm the least talented artist in the room here. And if I would go with that mindset, and it's like, all right, well, let me try to write to reach their level. I don't look at it like as a negative. I look at it as like, no, it's a challenge for me to try to get onto their level. And there's times where they look at it the same way when looking at me. And I think we all play perfectly off together, because we remove our egos and just allow ourselves to create in a truly, truly vulnerable way, where it's just like, we're just going to do whatever feels great to us. As you said, we're going to listen to our heart and just go.
Yeah, totally. And for somebody that talks all this shit on other people. I wouldn't be able to do pretty much anything that I do if it wasn't for a lot of the great people that are in my corner, bandmates, collaborators, things like that. Like a lot of good stuff.
Same here.
Ain't nobody
Same
helping me
here.
do this podcast. But aside from this, I have a lot of people who help me with a lot of great things that are good at what they do. But it's about finding those right people.
Yeah.
Just rocking with those people.
And I mean, it's a trial and error. Like
Oh, definitely.
You know, my friend Alante, he used to say that all the time. Like, this is a trial and error. Like, there's no right answers here. It's like you just got to keep going until you figure it out. And it's all about just, are you willing to actually, like, do you learn from whenever you do have an error? A lot of people don't. A lot of people can't accept if they were wrong in a situation and being like, I messed up there. And it's like, if they don't take that acceptance on something, they'll keep putting the blame or keep missing where it really started. Like, that's one thing I think I've been good at, because once again, shout out to my grandparents and my mom and dad as well, and all the people that helped me. It's like, if I got caught doing something, I couldn't talk my way out of it. It was like the only way I knew that, like, all right, this ass whooping ain't gonna be as bad is if I just fess up and explain why I did it. And then after the ass whooping, I can think of why I got caught and try to do it differently.
Sure.
But
Sure.
It's the same thing with this, just taking acceptance that when things don't go right, it's taking, like, acceptance whenever things do go right. I'm sorry, and we're sorry, not taking acceptance, but celebrating when things do go right.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of people don't celebrate things that go good. They just only focus on the negative. And it's like, yeah, no wonder you might not think anything's working.
Sure.
Because you view all of this from a negative lens.
It's like the comment section. You might have like 20 people that'll be like, good song, and one person's like, this is trash, and all of a sudden you're focusing on
that one
person instead of all the other crazy support that you have.
I try to, like, I mean, I have a bunch of sayings as well, but most of them come from just, like, life experience when people say things and it hits me in the moment. But, like, I never try to focus on who's not there. I just try to focus on who is there. So it's like, if someone says, like, oh, I'm gonna be at your next show, I hope you do make it. If they don't, I'm not mad at them.
They ain't coming.
It's like, they probably aren't, but they probably aren't. But it's like, I'm not mad if they don't make it, because it's like, all right, you might, like, at the end of the day, I'm an adult. I'm well aware that things happen out of your control all the time. So it's like, you know, I'm not going to get mad if they can't make it to the show. Whereas, like, younger me, and that's part of, like, learning lessons. Younger me, I would get mad if people couldn't make it to a game. Whereas older me, it's like, I understand, because it's like, I actually got a chance to go through, get a little bit more hair on my chest and go through life a little bit more. And it's like, oh yeah, shit comes up.
Oh yeah,
like,
definitely.
Shit happens. And all you can do is, like, just appreciate the people that are there, engage with the people that are there. And for me, I try to truly be thankful for it, because at the end of the day, it's like, I'm well aware most people would rather just be chilling on their couch, watching whatever TV show they're watching, or just chilling at their house. You know, most people would rather be chilling. So if they're coming out, or they'd rather be going to a poppin' party. So if they're coming out to come watch me perform, one, I owe them the best show I can give them. But two, like, after the show, I need to go around and thank them and actually be like, hey, thank you for coming through this. If you liked it, great. If you didn't, I'll get you the next time. Bet.
Yeah,
like,
definitely.
But I'm going to get you eventually. And that's, I mean, for me, that's helped me with music, but also just in life in general. Like, just kind of understanding, like, everyone can't be there. Everyone's not always going to be there. Like, as I said, like, the expectations of someone to come and save me, expecting that there's going to be this 200 car, like, caravan from Beaver Falls driving up with all these people in it. Like, it's not going to happen, just because there's a lot of stuff that goes wrong. But what I could do, instead of complaining about them coming up here, I could bring my show to them. That was the way I kind of looked at it. It was like, all right, I'll bring the show to you guys. And that's what we're doing also, July 19th.
So, you know, as we round the station here, we're pulling back in from a nice, hearty, lengthy, girthy conversation that we've had today. If there's anything that you want to shout out here at the end, any upcoming dates and whatnot, this will probably be up in early July.
July.
Anything in June, don't talk about it. It already happened and it was great and you should have been there. You fucked up.
All right, let me try to think of this the correct way. All right, well, yeah. I'm sorry if you missed the June 28th show that we have coming up. Let me just apologize for that. But if you missed that one, July 13th, I'll be doing like a rap battle, or like a versus battle with my guy Shamar at the Forge. We're gonna have some, like, I'm trying to set up some, like, dope, like, undercard I won't say go undercard, but just dope, like other battles or like verses to go along that we think would, represent it. Which I mean, he's just a really dope artist that makes me like, it kind of scares me. So it's like, all right, I gotta get ready for war here.
Cool.
After that, that next Thursday, July 18th, I'll be at Club Cafe. It'll be the Lucy Experience. Like we'll be like releasing the album Lucy July 19th. Knock on fucking wood. We'll be releasing the album July 19th. So the night before, I'll just basically be playing with Loopzilla and Catherine Stray, as well as Barbados Black. And we'll also have like Aurora Vera, Mark the Bull, and Lexa Terrestrial in the show as well. It's going to be wild. It's going to be insane. It's going to be a crazy good time. Club Cafe, 8 p.m., July 18th. And then July 19th, it's like a show that I'm honestly just really looking forward to. As I said, local 724 in Beaver Falls, like on College Hill. It's going to, well, I'm going to be releasing like a poster soon for it. So still undecided on who I was going to be on and everything. But the most important thing is like,
most important thing, me.
Yeah, I'll be there and we'll have, and like, and you know what I'm saying? I'm really, really looking forward to being able to like perform again in front of my family, in front of friends. Ones that just haven't had the ability to make it up to the city. I'm really looking forward to being able to perform in front of them and really do something I haven't done with them in a long time, which is just like celebrate like victories and celebrate things that we accomplished together. And then the album Lucy. I don't even know why I call it an album. It's not an album, it's an experience.
Okay.
It's something that like you just have to feel. It's like, I mean, I'm not trying to put myself in these classes with these people, but at the same time, I'm not afraid to. It's like, think of like Prince's like Purple Rain, Pink Floyd's like The Wall, like albums that like tell a story, but they're also like hit. So I really think that like it's going to be a project that I'm really proud of. It's been 4 years in the making, finding all the right beats, all the right people and instrumentalists. So July 19th at midnight. Like, you know what I'm saying? It'll be up on all platforms. Once again, knocking on wood for that. And I really, really looking forward to going around, performing more of that. And then, also July 24th. You know what I'm saying? We got a nice little canvas open mic and poetry night at the Forge as well to celebrate my birthday. You know what I mean?
Hey, happy early birthday.
Thank you.
Fantastic. Yes.
Yeah, I'm cresting on 30 years.
Woo!
Yeah. Big 3-0.
Love
feel
it.
Good, though.
Hell yeah.
Great, though.
Congratulations.
Thank you. That was there, and thank you so much. And actually, this is actually kind of funny because like a couple years ago, like when I first got into music, I actually tried to I hit you up to come onto the podcast, but I think just somewhere I didn't have any like music out yet, so it was like, what am I really going to talk about?
Sure. Yeah. I've gotten like several. I get a lot of emails for people that want to come on the podcast, and like it's just generally like impossible to keep up with everything.
Oh no!
And like for the most part at this point, like I pretty much ignore all of them. I don't know why you're here. You lucked out. Put it that way.
Well, like I said, it's
the
the
email
5%
came
that's going
through
right.
a day that I was feeling like, oh yeah, I do have some openings. We're good. I'm gonna check this out. I do respond to emails. I don't know why. I'm making myself sound like such a jerk today.
You're not. No, you're not. He's a busy guy. He has a lot going on.
I think that especially there was like a good almost year and a half that I wasn't really doing any episodes because I was touring a ton and just all over the place and just didn't have time for it. But now I'm here. I'm chilling.
See,
it's great to meet you.
This is great. As I said,
great to talk with you.
That's why I said that's why I said earlier. 5% is going right, but I'm sitting here, and it's means I must be doing something right because
that's wild that you. It's fun. Normally, I would remember that, and I don't even remember that you messaged me
because there was literally I sent it and there was no music behind it. There was I was just hey, I'm an up and coming producer and rapper, and I'm trying to get my word out there more. And you was like, do you have any links? And I was like, shit, no. I forgot about that part. I forgot you need something to present them besides what's on my phone. So yeah.
Well, I'm glad that you're here. Thanks for coming back.
No, like I said, thank you so much for having me. Awesome. I, you know what I'm saying, would love to come back at another point because I really, really enjoyed our conversation.
I think that in a couple more years, definitely it'll be cool. We can come back around, revisit, see your growth, see what if you're not on another planet, if you could still come back and talk with little old Brian here on the podcast.
Well, see, that's the thing is, as they say, you always remember your first, and this is my first podcast. So I'd always come back.
Okay. All right, cool.
Perfect.
Well, good to know. Well, Shel, it's been great. I appreciate you coming on today. Hey, you have all those shows coming up. I'll have the links to things if you have any sort of a online presence now. If you have some links, I'll gladly put them in the description.
I got that now. I got that.
And other than that, I think that we are done. So I guess I'll do my little outro, and then I'll let everybody go and use the restroom, because boy, I gotta fucking pee. And that is all, folks. Oh my God, that's the wrong camera. That is all, folks. Thanks so much for being here. One more time, Shel the Philosopher. Thank you. I'll be back again next week with another episode. Same time, same place, same channel. Actually, maybe not next week, because I don't have anything else on the schedule right now. So I'm ripping this whole fucking room apart. We're going to be rebuilding some things. So I'll be back at some point in time. There's almost 500 other episodes that you can listen to if you're really itching. Plenty of great talent. Go back into the archives. But I'll be back eventually. You know the drill. Start the beat. So like, subscribe so you know when something happens. If you see me at a show, say hi. If you see Shel at a show, say hi. Tell him you learned about him here. I get 25% off if you my recommendation code. I don't have sponsors. So now you're my sponsor, so I'm just putting things on you.
I mean, this doesn't make. Yeah, you can get this shirt. So yeah, it can be your sponsor. Yeah.
None of this fucking makes any sense. You know what it is. My name is Brian. This has been a podcast. Have a good day. Take care of yourselves. Take care of the people around you. Peace. We did it. That was a podcast.
Thank you.
Right at 2 hours. We're stopping.